Hey everybody, welcome to another installment of our VerdanaBold resource guide for data visualization. Today we're going to look at an infographic that plots different aspects of a resource library on its path to mainstream adoption. Whenever I start to look for ways to improve a slide like this, I like to look it over at a high level first, and giving it a quick scan, I can just already see that this is a lot. There are certain things that are clear enough. I can tell at the top that the stages of open educational resource maturity are plotted left to right, from birth of movement to positive growth to full adoption. Likewise, if we look at the left side, they've plotted the different aspects by group. We have supply, demand, and policy. And then, of course, we have the individual items right here, numbered 1 through 8. Where things really start to fall apart for me is in this part of the slide, sort of the middle. After spending a minute scanning, I can see where the individual points are plotted in terms of their maturity. But I'm noticing that the supplementary information for each point is plotted in a way that's a little haphazard. Some are plotted to the left of the point, some to the right, and I understand that they're just trying to make space, but it's hard to follow. Also, there's a number of elements that they're trying to use in a functional way, but they come off slightly more decorative. For instance, with these double-headed arrows, I think they're meant to show that this is all connected. This is all point 1. You're kind of having the same thing happen with these dotted lines. They're indicating separation between the different rows. I understand why they did it this way, but it's just making it kind of busy, and my eyes are having a hard time focusing in. I think there's a few things we can do to quickly improve this infographic. As we prep the slide for redesign, I propose the following 3 tips to help streamline this visual. 1. Remove the decorative visuals. 2. Cut down on the amount of text on the slide. And 3. Align the text for easier scannability. So, in an attempt to sketch before I redesign the slide, I'm going to start cutting some elements. I'm also going to delete the dotted connectors between the plot points in an effort to just clean things up a little bit. Looking at the individual captions for each plot point, I noticed that some of them have supplementary information in green. I want this graphic to be high level enough that you can digest this information at a glance. So I'm going to suggest deleting the supplementary copy. If there were any drill down slides going into the individual items, that would be an excellent time to bring back this copy for extra context. Next, I noticed that there's several caption items where it's unclear which plot point exactly they correlate to. So I'm going to take a minute and read through these and get some context. I see that number 3 is product availability, and this one mentions products. So I'm going to take my best guess and move this right here. Similarly here, looking at the captions, I noticed that this one mentions states, so I'm going to move it next to adoption by state. And this one mentions awareness, so I can leave it where it is. Just taking a minute to sort of rearrange these so I have a better idea of how to redesign this. I also noticed that the OER maturity graphic at the top is using the same color coding as the policy group in the lower left. To avoid confusion, I'm going to change the maturity graphic to a neutral color. And before I get to redesigning the graphic, I'm going to take one last pass and strip out any elements that I think are not necessary. This is going to help the audience focus on the most important information. I think we can get rid of this rule. I even think we can get rid of the descriptor for this maturity chart, quite honestly. And lastly, in this context, I don't think we need these numbers. Now what I'm left with is a rough sketch containing the information I want to port over into my new infographic. For this particular infographic, I've decided to lay it out from scratch, and so I've gone ahead and done that ahead of time, and we can take a look at it now. Okay, here's what our redesigned graphic looks like. For the maturity graphic that was at the top of the previous slide, I've gone with something that's a lot more minimalist. We still have the birth of the movement, the positive growth, and the adoption, but they were in a heavy chevron shape before, and what I've done is I've taken that and I've moved it into the individual items, just so that their progress really pops. I kept the groupings by color. I thought that made sense. We still have supply, demand, and policy. I also kept the little diamonds. I thought they were a very definitive marker of where they land on the graph. I did change them to be dark black, though, just so that they really pop against the colors. Also, since none of these items have reached the adoption stage of maturity yet, I wanted to compress that column. It gives more room for the birth stage and the positive growth stage. And besides making the progress markers more bold, the other thing this slide really benefits from is left aligning the item names and their corresponding captions. Now when my eye goes to scan, it's all in the same place, and my eye doesn't have to jump around to read down this list. And there you have it. In just a couple of minutes, we were able to really elevate this graphic and make it something that's much easier to scan. And just to recap, we removed the decorative visuals, we cut down on the amount of text, and we aligned the text for scannability. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check back soon for more videos.